All right, today we are diving deep into a story that just completely tangles up physics, faith, and the very fabric of time itself. Seriously, this is a narrative that pushes the absolute boundaries of what we think we know about science and belief.
So let's just start with the question at the heart of all this, because it's a real mind bender. Imagine you're a priest, okay? You're hearing a confession for a truly horrific murder. Now here's the twist. The voice that's confessing, it's your own, from 30 years in the future. What do you even do with that?
So, our story kicks off way up high above the Earth on an orbital station called Sancta Lucia. And right at the center of it all is this unique piece of tech that, well, it makes this whole paradox possible in the first place. It's called the frequency confessional. And what it does is let priests hear confessions from colonists who are scattered all across the stars. But here's the catch: the speed of light. A confession might not even arrive until decades after it was spoken. It literally becomes a whisper from the distant past. And this is exactly what happens to the station's priest, a man named Father Simeon. He opens up this file, and it's flagged with a 30-year transmission delay. It's an echo from a voice that has been traveling through the empty void for 3 entire decades. So Simeon listens, and he just has this moment of pure vertigo. He knows that voice instantly. It's his own. Aged by grief, and it's confessing to the murder of a child he knows and loves in the present, a murder he hasn't committed yet. Okay, so as you can imagine, this impossible confession kicks off a totally baffling investigation. The biggest questions aren't just where it came from, but when. The investigation just immediately slams into a logical brick wall. The signal's data, its metadata, it points to a research vessel called the Kairos. But here's the thing. According to all the station's records, the Kairos was declared lost 10 years before this confession was even sent. I mean, just look at this timeline. It creates this totally impossible sequence of events. A signal is sent from a ghost ship a decade after it vanished, and then it travels for 3 more decades just to reach Father Simeon. It's a timeline that just completely defies physics as we know it. So there's really only one possible explanation: this strange cosmic anomaly that the station's scientists call the fold. The best way to think of it is as this weird region of space where time and causality are all tangled up, and the normal rules, well, they just don't apply. And this is where the cosmic mystery starts to become deeply, deeply personal for the station's top signals analyst, a woman that Father Simeon actually considers a daughter. Her name is Yael, and she's the one who's been tracking the fold. But as she digs in, she uncovers this shocking truth. The very first mission to ever investigate this anomaly, the Kairos mission from 41 years ago, was actually led by her own grandfather, Amos Reiner, who was lost along with the ship. And get this, her grandfather's mission was completely prophetic. He knew, he understood they were heading into a place that would challenge not just their location in space, but their very position in time. So as they dig deeper into Reiner's old logs, which, by the way, were also transmitted from inside the fold, they discovered that the stakes of this whole paradox are astronomically high. Yeah, this isn't just about a priest's weird future or a single lost ship anymore. We're talking about the lives of 40 million people. 40 million souls aboard 17 colony ships are now just hanging in the balance. Reiner's logs revealed this absolutely terrifying prediction. He called it a causal fracture, like a wound in the very fabric of spacetime. And this fracture is set to broadcast a faulty signal, a signal that will lure all the colony ships' automated navigation systems right into the fold, and to their doom. Now, this is what I find so fascinating. To describe what he found, Reiner, who's a physicist, he had to turn to theology. He calls the causal fracture a wound. His solution, a counter-signal, he calls the unconditioned word. And this creates a field effect that acts like grace and follows the structure of absolution. Science and faith were literally becoming the same thing. But how in the world could a cosmic wound like that be healed? Well, the answer forces Father Simeon to go back and completely re-examine that terrible confession from his future self. And Simeon has this realization. His first interpretation was just wrong. The grief in his future voice, it wasn't for a murder he committed. It was for a profound act that he was forced to witness. The sin wasn't betrayal. It was the grief of surviving a tremendous sacrifice. And Amos Reiner's log confirms this idea exactly. The fold doesn't require a death.
It requires a transformation. The person at the very center of this event won't die, but they'll be, well, relocated in a way that everyone left behind experiences as this profound, heartbreaking loss.
So the process for healing spacetime actually involves these 4 steps, and it blends physics with consciousness. First, a person has to witness the full scale of the problem. Second, they have to freely, consciously say yes to the personal cost. And that conscious yes then generates a real, physical field effect, a wave of grace, if you will, that heals the fracture and saves everybody. So we get to the final act, where all these pieces, theology, physics, family legacy, a future confession, they all start to converge as the Kairos finally returns from the void. And the countdown is officially on. In just over 80 days, that ghost ship is going to arrive. Amos Reiner, or whatever he's become after decades in the fold, is coming back. And his granddaughter, Yael, and Father Simeon, they have to get ready to play their parts. So here it is, the end game. The ship will dock, Reiner will reveal the final piece of the puzzle. Yael has to make the ultimate choice, to become the witness and the source of that healing signal. And Simeon, he has to fulfill the prophecy of his own confession, to grant absolution, not for a murder, but for the grief of witnessing her sacrifice. And this brings us right to the story's core, and it leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. In a universe where forgiveness can literally reshape reality, where grace has an actual physical field effect, what does absolution even mean anymore? The act becomes something so much grander and so much more mysterious than we could ever have imagined.